Hello and welcome to the EUphoria podcast. We are broadcasting to you. I was going to say live. We're broadcasting to you pre-recorded.
What is that? We're broadcasting to you live.
We're coming at you live from the LEC studio.
In Berlin. One man.
Tickets are still just $5. No, you don't. You probably never had that.
This is going to be a wild one. I can feel it already.
I can tell it's loose. I've lost the ability to click. I think I've crashed the window that my script is in.
You've lost the ability to click.
I can't click in the window that the script is, so I can't make the adjustment that I was going to make. So it's doomed, which means that this is a good time to tell you that, just so everybody knows, originally we were supposed to have Mikyx for the entire episode of the show, and our goal in general is to bring players on in person. Mm-hmm. But of course, COVID precautions or COVID cautions, depending on what's going to happen, have limited us a little bit. So we will get Mickey dialed in later to talk a little bit about the new life on Excel and kind of everything that's been happening. Obviously, a bit of an odd situation if you haven't followed. Mickey picked up in week 2, replacing Advian. We had a 1-1 week. We're going to talk to him about it. We're going to see there's been some mixed reporting. Very sad that Advian left. Very cool that Mickey joined Excel, but also like, not everybody was on board. There's a little bit of drama there that we're going to get into.
You want to know what I think's cursed before we talk to Mickey? So, hear me out. His first game, he joined, right? Yeah. He played Galio. He went 0-7-7. Okay, bear with me. And then in his second game played, he went 0-0-7. The only score lines he's had is 0s or 7s. And they always finish 7th place. And I feel like that's a curse. And he also got his MVP on Lulu. So props to Mickey. I don't know how he pulled that off, but MVP on Lulu. Hey, we take those. But yeah, he's 007 or 077, so that's kind of scary. That's kind of scary.
Look, we're going to keep our eyes on it. You bet that they'd make playoffs. I bet that they didn't. And this is very... the stakes are high right now here in the old EUphoria podcast.
Oh my God.
Don't want to dress up in an Excel costume.
The game times were 35 minutes, 40 seconds, 39 minutes, 40 seconds. Do you know what the average is then? 37 minutes.
Oh my God. Once you see the numbers, you can't stop seeing the numbers, Mark.
Oh my God.
That is, of course, a little bit later. We have a lot of things to talk about today because it was kind of a crazy week. Now, if you listened last week, we had Odawamne on, and you know that this was a big week for Rogue because they had
27 past. Sorry, carry on.
Relatively easy competition. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mark.
The 7s are everywhere.
Up until this last week, and this week, Odawamne said it himself, is like the big testing week to see how good they really were, especially that match versus Fnatic, where prior to that match, they played 4 out of 5 of the same opponents. And they won. They had a 2-0 week, and it was a pretty friggin' convincing 2-0 week, I have to say. Wow. So we're going to have a couple off-topic discussions today. But before we get into the off-topic stuff, on topic, Rogue, best team in the LEC, question mark.
Yeah, I mean, the last team they have to take down is G2, which is this weekend, I guess, because G2 came off a decent week, taking down Fnatic and things like this. So they've had their ups and downs, but Rogue have only really had ups. They just don't lose. Even their game against Fnatic was 29 minutes, right? Against BDS, they finished in 28 minutes. So just a minute later, and they're taking out Fnatic, who was also undefeated.
Yeah.
Malrang was absolutely everywhere. I went home, opened my fridge, he was there too.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened.
Shown up everywhere.
It's crazy.
You're like, bro, I swear we did not invite you to this. And he's like, yep, but here I am anyway.
Yeah,
I got the invite. You're like, how?
Just smiling at you like, hi.
Hello.
Just randomly shows up.
I still see his Viego, like the steam from the shower comes up. Malrang's like behind me a second later.
I wake
I'm like,
up
oh my
cold
God.
Sweats. Where is he, man? Is he under the bed? I don't know. Malrang's everywhere. Like, I looked at the Fnatic draft and I was like, damn, Renekton into Gwen, early push. Orianna into TF, early push. Lucian Nami into Janna, early push. Fnatic had early push. Malrang says, I love it when you push. Boom, just comes and kills everyone. Bam. Unlocks mid. Humanoid dies. I've said that many times before.
Yes, we all have.
And then Larson was unlocked, and then Malrang and Larson roamed the map. They went towards bot, and then Trimby was unlocked. They went towards top. Like, I feel like Malrang has this very good sense of, I don't have to play the map alone. I need to play through one lane to help other lanes, and then that lane will just domino affect the other, right? So he's just playing so unbelievably well. Like, it's just crazy to me how even in their second game against Vitality, I think it was, Malrang doesn't even pick jungle 1, 2, 3. He's like, yeah, I can go 4-5. I'll just pick like a Volibear with Predator. I played it last year. Like, it's not too bad. They have LeBlanc, Xin Zhao, so that's going to hurt, but I'll figure something out.
Well, and it wasn't the same, definitely in that second game, it wasn't the same Malrang hard carry. He did good, and he was everywhere that he needed to be, but obviously that Viego game was like absolute destruction.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that he was still able to have such a big impact in that game, it was massive for Rogue this weekend. And Rogue across the board had a solid week. We're going to talk a little bit later in the podcast about some new champion stuff because Zeri's enabled this week and Renata just got
enabled.
revealed. And Renata is a very cool champion, I think. Very potentially broken champion. So we're going to kind of give you our initial takes on Zeri, what she's going to mean for pro play. We'll probably ask Mickey to chime in on some point at that one as well, too. And we're going to talk a little bit about Renata because honestly, we're just really hyped about this champion.
I'm so hyped. We saw their spells like 5 minutes ago and we were like nerding out.
But I think we'll hold that for a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. There are timestamps as always in the description if you want to skip ahead and skip back. But I think because we're on the topic of this rogue dominance, we should just segue into EUphoria MVP
of the week.
Can
we get some kind of like intro, like EUphoria MVP of the week?
Yeah. Can someone clip the? Can you do that one?
No, I'm not doing that again. We definitely haven't.
Okay. All right. I was like, someone can clip that.
Before we continue, I think I know who your MVP is going to be.
Well, I have candidates, and I was going to run through them, and then maybe get your assessment.
Okay.
Because you're a man who's been in like watching 3 different leagues. So, I want to have a philosophical discussion with you before we begin, because I think that we're going to start to see a trend emerge in MVP. Because as I was looking through, and when we look at MVP, obviously we look at performance. Generally, MVPs are going to go to teams that have been 2-0, because if someone's going to have an MVP week and not just an MVP day, they usually have to be a big impact in 2 games. And if they're going 1-1, I think it's less likely. It's certainly not impossible, just less likely. But in general, I think right now in this meta, and potentially in general, it is really hard to justify giving MVP to AD carry or top laners. I think it's super difficult, and I'll explain why. I think that AD carries are often left alone to farm on a side lane, and I think that it's really hard outside of like them playing incredibly clutch in early skirmishes or late game fights to feel like they have like gone above and beyond. And I think more often than not, when that does happen, it's usually the product of leads generated earlier by someone else in the game. Similarly with top laners, I feel like since the teleport changes, they just don't friggin' exist until 15 minutes, and so it's super rare. For example, if you wanted an MVP top laner performance, Wonder's game where he played Gragas top against Vitality, survived the top lane gank, even if ultimately it wasn't super consequential. But that's obviously a super highlight play. And then was massive engager over and over again. If he wasn't eclipsed by Hylissang this week, that is a game where I could see giving a top laner an MVP. But generally, right now in this meta, it feels super hard. Flakked, for example, quadra kill in that Misfits game. Great. But also in the context of that game, like he had a good week, but it's like, so for me, this my general point is like, I feel like it's hard to give either of those roles things because more often than not, short of absolute dominance or crazy highlight montage steal moments, I just feel like a lot of the game is decided before they get to participate. And if they grief it, obviously you're going to notice. And if they play a little bit better, obviously you're going to notice. But it never feels super game defining to me.
You need one of those playmaker ADs to make it so you can get an MVP. I think like the one that comes to mind instantly is something like Lucian, where you're just the primary carry, your Nami can't really make plays. And I think you're completely right. The best example I can think of is anyone wants to go back and watch T1 versus Damwon game 1. What happens was Carrier got Thresh, Gumayusi got Aphelios. Gumayusi finished the game with like over 10 CS per minute. He was 9-0-5 on Aphelios. He was one-shotting absolutely everyone. He probably got like a double or a triple kill somewhere. But Carrier was playing Thresh and he got them loads of kills in the early game. He got them a kill mid, a kill bot, he got a 2v2 kill, all these kind of things. I don't know if it was 2v2 at that game, but anyway, he was everywhere on the map, diving mid, level 4. And Carrier got the MVP, deserved, right? He set the team up for success, and Gumayusi slam dunk, you know? He gave him the layup, and then in-cam Gumayusi with the double under toe slam overhead backflip, you know? And you got to make it look stylish, because Gumayusi definitely did. So I think it's much easier to give it to jungle support and say the reason they're MVP is because they got their team ahead, or give it to a mid laner because you can show off with the shockwaves, you can show off with like the team fights on Vex and LeBlanc and things like this. I
think similarly, you have opportunities to roam as a mid laner very often. You're much more active, and I feel like those 3 roles are the roles that actually get to move.
And the 2 most useless roles in the game are just top and AD. It's just how it is. AD is either left on their own after 5 minutes to 8 minutes, where support just roams, plays for Herald, goes for mid ganks, tries to get solo lanes ahead. And top lane doesn't really have TP for the first 14 minutes, so he's on an island, unless he's playing like a really explosive Armageddon carry matchup like Camille versus Jax or something, right? So it's natural that it normally does go to support mid jungle, and I think that 3-man core is what basically dictates the backbone of every game. You know, your support mid jungler, what gets you ahead, and then the carries have to do the rest. If you misplay one team fight, I think that's the thing as well. It's like you also have the opposite end of the spectrum where I get you really far ahead. If you screw up a team fight, it's so obvious. If you play a team fight good job, you know? That's what you're supposed to do in the first place, you know? So it definitely doesn't reward as much success as it kind of criticizes errors or like errors are very obvious because you're like, dude, this guy just got you 2k gold ahead, a full tower, and you just grief the team fight. Like, come on, man. But if you play a team fight good and kill everyone, it's like you were supposed to do that.
You're supposed to do that. Yeah.
So I think things like when you go back to the AD carry meta of like Ezreal or Lucian, where you're a bit more like I can dash in rather than just Jinx, hit, whatever's
or like
in front of you.
Kaisa. You remember Kaisa meta? That was like, you're popping.
Oh, the perks Kaisa meta 2019, you know, where it's just ulting into 2 people. Do you remember the Kaisa Kayle that Damwon had, where everything was on the Kaisa, just ult him with Kayle ult and do as much damage as you can? Those are the kind of champions you'd be like, damn, you can get MVP, you know?
Yeah, these shorter range AD carries where you like have to play aggressive to get value out of their kits. Like Vayne is probably on that list if Vayne wasn't so...
Maybe Twitch as well.
Twitch, yeah. Big
I
big
miss
impact.
Twitch.
Well, I miss Twitch
Draven,
too, actually.
Twitch, you know?
Draven definitely on that list. Like, I think of all like the Callista, that's a champion. Like, the champions where you can take over the game from bot lane.
I think those champions have like question marks around them. It's like, well, you're probably going to lose your lane, but what can you do out of lane? Whereas if you pick Caitlyn, I'm the AD carry, you're like, well, you have to get CS lead. You have to take my tower.
Yeah, imagine we're just like, wow, this Caitlyn had a 20 CS lead. What a legend. MVP.
Yeah. And that's what she was supposed to do, right?
It's
you
like,
have
bro.
to do that. So that's why...
it's like your job is to flip burgers. And someone comes up and is like, gold star. And you're like, wait, I'm literally doing my job.
You
like,
just have to hit me when you have to hit me when I farm, and you have to hit my tower, and then you just get a CS lead.
And look, like, don't get me wrong, people do deserve praise. Like, you did what you were supposed to do, and you did it well. That deserves praise. But we're talking about MVP, which is like the above and beyond. You know?
Yeah, and the Caitlyn's also the follow-up, right? If you're playing Caitlyn Lux bot lane, and the Lux hits a binding to get the kill, and then Caitlyn, all she has to do is, well, just put a trap on top of you.
Trap, auto,
one
auto. Ooh, is that it?
So yeah, that's just the nature of League of Legends, really, isn't it? I think that it becomes more fun when you have like 2019 meta, if you imagine it, where you have like Irelia top, Yasuo mid, Gragas jungle with a Kaisa bot. It's like, so who's getting MVP, guys? I've got 2 assassin divers and a Kaisa. Good luck. Whoever clutches the fight harder wins, and then it's kind of like a toss-up, you know?
Yeah, I think so. On that note, there's not going to be, at least on my list for potential candidates this week, too many ADs or top laners. The one exception to that is Comp, who was on the short list. He's not my actual, he was just on my candidate list because Comp was the rock for his team, you know, good Caitlyn game, really showed up that time, especially versus Vitality, and across the weekend, just super, super solid
also,
play.
Kind of say Comp stats are nuts. Not so much like lane phase stats, but like just team fight stuff.
So good. Yes. But I think, and the thing is, remember that when you're 7-0, your stats are like by default going to be pretty good. And that does not, again, that context is important, but it doesn't take away from how well Comp's been playing. I think the moment where Comp went from like, he's doing a great job and that deserves respect to MVP was like when he started that fight with Carzzy in the bot lane and kept that shit going. I was like, damn, these are the moments that I look out for where you're just like, you're just taking a raw 1v1. And I like, that's a good moment.
And the weird thing to me about Comp is, first of all, like massive props to Comp coming back from what happened last year, just being benched and just disappearing from everywhere and coming back and being insane. Okay, I'll give you some raw numbers here. Kill participation, right? How many, like how much time or how many kills you're participating in for your team. The highest person on that team is Comp in Rogue. He's at almost 80% KP. Malrang's at 69. Trimby's at 71. Nice. But Comp's at almost 80. As a, you know, we just talked about AD carry being, you know, not much of an impact role. He's playing Jinx, he's playing Jhin, but he is part of majority of their kills, and he is doing the most damage as well. So just raw numbers, he's doing fantastic, I think. Yeah,
I think again, like I think that one of the struggles of one thing that you should know is I have a lot of Rogue players on this list because ultimately Rogue are doing incredibly well, and there has to be an MVP on that team, and you have to pick. So similarly. Let's do the other line. Trimby also on my list for this week, a guy that I looked at. And these are all people that I was like, these people deserve looking through their stats, looking at their impact, looking through the VODs again to look again, just based on what I remember. And Trimby, incredible Janna game. Now, admittedly, that game was the Malrang show.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, but Trimby deserves that shout out. And similarly, the Lux defense play, the bot lane play, he asked if we could get the replay clip, and I don't think we ever did, where he's literally just falling off Ahri around. Wonderful thing going in and watching that in the replay, and it's like this man has been super, super good, and I think that him and Malrang in the early game are part of the reason that Rogue has just been doing so incredibly well. 100%. And I like that this meta of pretty boring range supports, honestly, does not mean that people aren't roaming. It does, however, mean that roaming is significantly higher risk, and you saw that because Trimby died a few times. You know, definitely got caught out, and we've seen a lot of range support players get caught out in the last weekend. To be fair, melee support players too. A lot of our supports getting caught. Kaiser's like out on no man's land sometimes. It's just rough out there for
people
sports.
Are running around griefing.
Yeah, people are skipping steps sometimes. They're just walking into fog of war, hoping that no one's there. But I think Trimby deserves like a little bit of acknowledgement as well, because it's definitely like he is a big part of it, and I think he's just slightly eclipsed by other members on his team. Similarly,
But
I mean, Larson's on the list, and you saw the TF game, incredible moments. The only non-rogue player on my list is actually Caps. It was a debate between Caps and Jankos for who is MVP on G2. True. We're working our way towards, I think, the most obvious MVP of all time, guys. But like we said, we'd give you discussion every week, so I do want to give you a little something. I think Caps, the big thing about Caps and Jankos is Jankos' first game where he set up Caps was really good, but Jankos' second game was like maybe a little less flashy. And Caps was getting by Humanoid. There's no other way to say it. He was getting absolutely bodied. He was getting destroyed. He survived a couple ganks that he should not have because Razor kind of flubbed it a bit. But once he did, he went on to have an incredibly solid victory performance. Specifically, the flank around top side really did it for me. I'm not giving him any credit for that horrible TP from Humanoid, but he did push W there, and that is an important skill to push.
Oh my god, that Humanoid TP. Damn. That was a big turning point in the game.
That was a roughie. But like Caps would be the other guy on the short list. But ultimately, the only person on this list that is truly deserving of MVP this week is none other than Malrang. His Fnatic game as Viego was 10 out of 10. It was disgusting. It was absolute dominance. And his next game against Selfmade Volibear, much less flashy, still very impactful
still
early
impactful,
game.
Yeah.
And I think what's insane to me is that this guy is, just looking at his week 3 stats, he's number 1 in K plus A at 14 minutes now, not at 15 minutes anymore, with 4.5, so 9 over both games basically. Number 2 in jungle proximity, huge stats, and minus 34 CS on average.
That's
like, he's wildly far behind, but I love it.
That's what I was just about to talk about. Like Malrang, the way he plays is he will look for every opportunity possible, whether it's like, so there's many different ways you can approach a lane as a jungler. The lane could be pushing, you could look for a dive, but the lane could also be pushing and they might gank it because you're pushing, enemy jungle might come, so you're going to try to counter gank. Alternatively, you can be on the flip side of that, where the enemy bot is stacking a wave and you can be there to gank them on that wave, or you might have to read that there's a gank or a dive set up and you have to counter it, right? So there's many different ways. That's just a couple of examples of finding opportunities, and Malrang is on it. He's looking for them all the time, and he's always in the right place at the right time to stop the enemy team from making a play. How does he make it so he can juggle his own plays while also stopping enemy plays? Giving up camps. And it puts him behind. So where does he get his XP from? He gets it from the lanes, because he makes sure the play either happens and he gets a push out and XP from there or from the kill, or he's there to counter the play and he's ready to get the XP in gold, whatever it is from the kill. But just from what you said, he's down around 25 to 30 CS at minute 14, 15. That's around 4 to 5 camps. Like he just...
It's more. It's like 6-7 camps.
He just leaves it up. Like he doesn't care. He doesn't want it. 6-7 camps. He doesn't even try to farm it. Like I'm looking right here at 15 minutes. How many times has Malrang been ahead at CS in 15 minutes?
Probably like once.
Never. 0%. He's never been ahead. He's down 300 gold. He's down XP. But Rogue as a team are very far ahead. And Malrang sacrifices himself to keep his lanes that are scaling either even or ahead, and balanced across the board, which just naturally benefits the team.
And I think the thing that there's a couple things that I love about this style, and one, because I think there's a lot of ways to play jungle, and I think a lot of players, especially when they come onto LEC stage for the first time and they've got nerves, just like fall back to super passive, small incremental advantages. Maybe they get a gank off, maybe they get 1 or 2 camps, because someone flubs a gank on the opposite side and they can steal a Raptor camp. This play style, as a spectator, I love. Now, it is not perfect, because I think the next level above this in terms of jungling is like when you get to the canyons, where you're like, he's everywhere and he's ahead in CS. Like, goddamn, this man's unleashed. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, how does he do it? It's unstoppable. But the thing that I love about this, and the reason why this feels so MVP worthy to me, and I do really support this playstyle, is in a different universe, Rogue are not 7-0, and we're sitting up here like, Malrang is down 34 CS, trying to force these whack-ass ganks every game, doing nothing, and he's useless. And that's the thing about this strategy, is it's super volatile. Like, because he is paying that CS price when he shows up there.
But that is
sunk cost.
Volatile.
And that is sunk cost. But he is making it work. And yes, it's gambling. And yes, like, we could never talk about Malrang if he plays like this every week as an MVP candidate again. But when it works, it really works. And it is good, and it is working for Rogue, and I think it does deserve that respect. Is that what the contrast to that means is, yes, Malrang is the MVP here. I wouldn't call him the best jungler in our league, because, again, this style is so volatile and so risky that we could easily see a game next week where he does nothing and looks completely useless. But when it does work, it deserves that recognition because it is so clutch and so important for Rogue.
Yeah, you can look at the positives and negatives. Let's just weigh up the positives, right? He's really active in getting his lanes ahead. He's dropping his camps to do it. And the third one I think is very important, especially for their coaching staff, is like Malrang can drop the 4-5 on pick ban to make sure he has a jungler that has impact, right? He'll pick Trundle on 4-5 or Volibear. He'll find something, Lee Sin, Xin Zhao. The other side of this coin that I will say if the glass is half, empty is Trimby said it very clearly on the desk. He said, well, we're getting ahead, but I really feel like half of these teams should not be dying to what we're doing. And he thinks that it's early season, the communication is poor, and most of these ganks should not be working because what they're getting ahead from is, yes, counter ganks and yes, dives are good, but a lot of it is actually just raw ganks. And how many times you look at it like a top tier game and just see a gank happen and they just die, lose their flash and the lane's over. It's very rare for that to happen in like a very high stakes, high level pro game, and we're early spring. So of course people will die to ganks naturally, maybe 1 or 2 in the highest level, but the amount of times Malrang's getting these ganks off, like that Fnatic game, he ran around the entire map, killing absolutely everyone in the first 15 minutes, and then the tower fell. So that's the only worry I have. How long can they keep it up before these teams start to get better, read Malrang's plays, and be like, guys, we're going into week 7 now, week 8. Malrang is just going to pick an early game jungler, perma gank. We need to track him, early invade, ward one of his sides, track him from that point onwards, time his second camps, make sure jungle support comes together at 6 minutes to ward wherever it is, and just track to where Malrang's behind in CS with no ganks. And then you're like, oh shit, what's the plan?
And in that sense, I think that Rogue are always in the interesting position that teams that are so clearly first in the league often find themselves in, is that it's often harder to grow because you're not, and I don't know what their scrims look like, but you're not losing games on stage with this strategy, which means if you're a coach, you're like, well, shit, do we invest more in this? Do we double down and get better at this and just try to get our playoff spot as soon as possible? Or do we say, all right, let's try something different and risk dropping those stage games? And it is best of one, so I would say do whatever you have to do to become the best version of yourself possible, because for some team, like Astralis at this point, Astralis just win friggin' games. Like,
Doesn't matter how you do it.
Do not care how you do it. Play whatever degenerate crap you want. I don't care. Until you can prove you can win a game, I don't care. But for Rogue, when they're 7-0, and playoffs is obviously the first goal, but more importantly, once you feel like you're pretty secure in playoffs, best of 5, then I think there's more room to experiment. And I think that you're right that this feels like, and we could be wrong, but I think this has a clock on it for how long this is going to work. And I think it certainly is a very good style against teams that are, from what everyone has told us about scrims, a lot of the teams on stage right now are coming in and playing way more reserved, let's say, way more cautiously in scrims. And so if Malrang is the one dude who's just out there going nuts, that's going to throw people off. And that's a super huge asset for Rogue in these early weeks. But when they want to remain ahead of the pack, when I think that their players, compared to some of the other top teams, have lower expected ceilings, we'll see what actual ceilings look like, I think that they also need to be one step ahead in terms of development. And I think it's going to be a challenge in weeks to come.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably figure out, they're probably very aware of this, and I think that now you're in such a comfortable position with having these wins, you can be like, well, we can try and first pick a Diana, let's play more for jungle, see what happens, Going to playoffs with a couple more styles, there's no point just kind of cruising through spring, trying to get this 18-0, early game only, try to stay the same style, by the time it's summer, you're screwed, or whatever, or by the time it's playoffs, you're screwed. Think outside the box a bit, try different things. Think they've got a lot of positives for them. Larson, extremely consistent as always, doesn't really die to ganks. Odoamne is playing fantastic. Comp and Trimby, this bot lane has surprised me in lane especially. So they have loads of good players around them. And if Malrang's ganks don't work out, I'm sure they'll be fine. But I think it's now time to just start putting your hand in a different bag and be like, let's see what we can pull out.
Yeah, show us more. And they've shown us a couple different kinds of styles of composition. And you heard a lot about the drafting praise this weekend in the show. And I think we'll see if they can continue to stay ahead in drafts, especially because now is when we really start to hit the patch shakeups. Because 12-1 to 12-2 was there's some decent changes there, but now that we're adding a new champion, and this is where your preseason prep starts to mean less and less and less, and your adaptability means more and more. And we always see teams rise and fall around this point in the year where your preseason prep essentially runs out. And we'll see who that's going to affect the most. Wouldn't surprise me if it affects Rogue a little bit. But since the team environment and the vibes seem to be so good, we'll just hope for their sake that carries them through.
Also, I think 12.3 will be a pretty big patch as well. I don't think that's coming out this weekend.
No, I think
maybe
we're
next week or the week
Zeri
after.
enabled, and then it's 12.
Yeah, there's loads of things happening, like the Ari reworks, LeBlanc TF getting taken out, some item changes. I feel like that's going to shake it up a bit. But the fact that Zeri's enabled is just... I have no clue what's going to happen with this champ. This champ had a really low win rate, but I don't think win rate's something you should look at in early release stages. I've seen Zeri Yumis run around terrorizing the Rift. I've seen people practicing Zeri mid and Zeri top a lot, especially Zeri top.
Well, and I've seen and the best thing you can do and I'll say this always, is just look at the nerfs that are coming in 12.3 to see what part of her kit is OP in 12.2. And it seems like it's a lot of the... it seems like there's a lot based on the nerfs that are coming through.
I think there was some Trinity Force changes where it gets more health, which is like a buff to Triforce, which is her core component. You always build Triforce on the champ.
Yep.
I don't think there's any changes to the champ on 12.3. Maybe
there's some planned ones that were teased by August. I'm not sure if they're 12.3 or if they're getting pushed back to 12.4. They were on Reddit. They were posted by, I think, SpiderAxe or someone from the patch website that we use.
Right now, Zeri's win rate in solo queue is sitting at around 52.6.
Yeah.
Which is pretty healthy for a freshly released champion now that I think about it. I think it was quite low initially, but now it's gone higher. Pick rate's pretty high. I've been seeing carry tops playing a top. There's a flexibility, but...
How skill intensive do you think she is as a champion?
She's very micro intensive in terms of like if your APM
you have to hit the Q and whatever.
Yeah, you have to hit Q autos and you have to be able to kite at the same time while keeping up your stacks to manage your move speed, right?
Then I'd say 52 might be high. And again, at some point this year, by the way, we're going to have August on the show. We can talk to him about this. But I would say that like if a champion is high skill and it comes out with a positive win rate, you're sweating. Because when LeBlanc first got... Okay, LeBlanc's a horrible example. Who's a complicated assassin?
Akali?
Yeah, but Akali was also really broken on release. The point is like if a champion has a high skill ceiling, you would assume that their first weeks of win rate would be low because people would be figuring out how to play the champion.
Yeah. Just for context, like a Master Plus, her win rate's 58%, right? She's the second highest win rate champion, right? In bot lane specifically, I'm talking here.
Bro.
So likely it's AD. My question is what kind of prio? Because what happens with champions coming into the meta is, I mean, I've talked about this before, but when you scrim in a league, you have two different scrim metas because everyone can't scrim everyone. So there's normally two groups, five or something like this, 6 or 4, 5 or 5, two groups come in with different scrim metas. What read do you have on the meta, right? Some teams might be first picking Zeri and being like, damn, this is OP. Other teams might be first rotating Zeri and then someone instantly finds a counter and then that group knows exactly what counters the Zeri and then you're just screwed, right? So you see this often with playoffs where there's a big patch before playoffs. Everyone comes in with different metas. People are still with the old meta with like Hecker and Volibear, and then other teams are playing like Nidalee and stuff. And you're like, wait, what the hell? How do we not know this?
Who's right? Yeah.
Who's right?
You see, the supersized version of this is when we get to Worlds, and there are like completely different regional metas. But yeah.
So exactly right. So you might have two different teams where one's instantly banning Zeri on red side, not giving first pick, and one team's blue, leaves it open, doesn't first pick, enemy team first takes it, boom, instant counter to it or something like this, right?
Yeah.
So two different things could happen.
I'll say that it's definitely hard to form a solid opinion on how good this champion is because I think Reddit prones itself to just all the super ludicrous highlight clips, like Pink Ward playing this AP Zeri. I've seen so many just like crazy Zeri moments where she's just like zooming around the map. She's so friggin' fast.
She's one of those champs where it's like very fast, a little low damage, but can take over a fight.
Yep.
Also, if she's CC'd, she's instantly dead, kind of, right?
Yeah.
So you need to lock her down.
Well, and I like champions that leverage... Because this is kind of why I thought Lilia was so interesting for a long time when Lilia was good. It's because like when she was really good and she was like dancing around skill shots and stuff, that was hype. And I'm kind of hoping that we get some of the same vibes here, especially when her Q, which is if you haven't looked at this champion, her Q is basically her auto attack, and her auto attack is basically a spell, and you have to mash Q kind of like shooter style with her little BR to like.
She's basically like Tracer from Overwatch. You're just dashing in and out. You're extremely squishy, but you'll one-shot it.
They're going to love that we made that comparison, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, she just dashes in and out, doesn't do that much damage, and then eventually she can. But if you're really, really good, she'll do a lot of damage, you know?
Yeah, and if you get ahead, and she can get ahead. I've seen a lot of games where she does just take over in lane phase, and she seems like a very frustrating champ.
Also, her E is so frustrating. Like this
little Talon
dash where it goes across
portal thing.
Like she's in a fight, and you're fighting, let's say, like in bot side river towards the wall of red side towards bot tower, and she's just like dashing in and over the wall non-stop or going through the walls. She's so annoying to gank. Oh my god.
Yeah, what I'll say is that as a spectator, because I think the more that I cast League of Legends, the more that I look things in terms of like, are they hyped to watch, and less are they balanced? Because everyone else is going to complain about balance. I think this character is super hyped to watch. That's what I will say. I think the fact that like some of that will be lost because I think when Ezreal is playing really well, like you appreciate that the Q is a skill shot, and Q is so clearly a skill shot, whereas her Q is really just looks like an auto attack. But understand in like a really tense team fight where like she's fighting a phase rush Rise, that shit sounds sick. You know what I mean? Just like they're just firing skills left and right at each other. Like if you drop a single auto, that's crazy.
But then in comes Malphite, Migo Rogue.
Yeah,
just ends the fight instantly.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Like I mean, obviously you can't just take it out. But these short range, highly skill intensive AD carries, and this one feels more because I like in a Vayne situation. Vayne kind of looks cool because it's like oh, how many sick Qs can you use to dodge stuff?
Tumble.
And tumble. But here, like, she not only has to move very fast, as you said, she's micro intense. You have to Q in the right spot, and it's like not the hardest skill shot to hit. Don't get me wrong, but intense moments. The difference between hitting an auto and missing an auto is life and death. So, I am very excited for Zeri. That said, I like any short range, high skill AD carry, she's either going to be, I think, ludicrously broken or non-existent.
Kind of say when new champions are released, it's crazy how fast your mind adapts to that champion just being in the game. You know, like the first week you're out, you're like, dude, this is disgusting. Or you see the release, you're like, oh, this is going to be OP. 2 weeks later, you're like, yeah, I'm just going to play it. You know, like, or you just see it in the game and it's just natural. I don't know. It's crazy how quickly you can just get adjusted
like,
from like, this looks OP to meh.
I was so pumped for auction, and we watched that Perks auction game where he fed, and I was like, I'm kind of over it now.
Yeah.
I was like, Vex is going to be so cool. Anti-mobility was sick. And then we watched 2 weeks of Vex games, and now no one picks it. I'm like, thank God, that champion is bad.
Yeah, you know, it's like super good into dashes, has its own scenarios, but it comes in looking like, oh my God, this is broken. And then everyone's like, meh. It's in the game.
That's kind of a
like,
champ.
The first time I had this was when Zoe was released. I was like, damn, this champ doesn't fit League of Legends. It's like some kind of Disney character. I don't know. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And then after a week, I'm like, yeah, Zoe's pretty cool. Yeah, like, it's a pretty cool champ. You know, like I get used to it. It's one-shotting everyone still, but like it fits. I don't know.
The next thing we're going to talk about before we kind of bring Mikyx onto the show, and maybe we have a little bit more time too, so maybe we can talk about some of the other top teams as well. But we are both really excited about Renata Glasc. Renata Glasc is the new, what would appear to be support champion. We'll see if she gets abused in any other lanes. But that has come out. She's like Chem Baron from Zaun thematically. But she just has a really cool and potentially super busted kit. It just got revealed today. There were some leaks ahead of time, but LeagueOfLegends.com will have it. I'll run through the abilities really quick just to give... It's going to be hard to visualize, so I encourage you, if you're in podcast video land, to just go look at them before we continue the discussion, but I'll run through them. Her passive is her basic attacks mark people, and then Leona styles. Her allies have to hit that person to consume the mark, which deals bonus damage. So, again, this is pushing her into the support role and not as a solo laner, because some portion of her damage is locked behind having an ally in the area. Her Q is like a blitzcrank hook. It is a missile. It roots the first enemy hit, and then she can throw that enemy in a direction. So basically, like, it's like a hook that locks on. It doesn't pull them in. It's just locked on them. They're rooted, and then she pushes a direction, and they go in that direction.
Yep.
And when she hits that direction, if it hits an ally, they're both stunned. Stunning them if the target is a champion.
Yeah, if the full details will be released soon, but something like that'll happen.
Yeah, no, so it's on the League of Legends website.
Oh, okay,
not
cool.
The specifics,
I'm
not the
Reddit.
leak image that you're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, think of like it's very similar vibes to the Zac Q into auto attack, but both halves are a skill shot, so it's a little bit more difficult. Her W, and this is where it gets really crazy, guys. And I have to explain this stuff ahead of time. I know this will feel redundant if you have the information ahead of you. It's just, this is some wild shit, guys. Like, balance team, let's go. Okay, her W is a buff for herself and her ally. Gives them both ramping attack speed and move speed towards enemies. Okay, simple, right? Here's the deal. If the ally gets if the ally gets to take down an enemy champion, the buff duration resets. Again, attack speed buff, movement speed buff while you're attacking and chasing people. Great. Not good for running away, good for going in. Sick. Here's where it gets weird. If the ally dies while bailout is the name of the skill, the buff is active. Their health is set back to full, but they begin burning to death over 3 seconds. Think of Chem Baron, think of Scion passive. So you start to die. Now, you can stop that burning to death process, that Scion passive health degrade, whatever, by getting a champion takedown before you die. Now, champion takedown means you don't need the last hit, but you do need to have done damage to the champion within the last, like, second and a half. I can't remember the exact specifics. It's similar rules to like getting the Rengar passive stacks or
It's kind of like a Lulu W with a Zillion ult. But the Zillion ult, when you come back, you need to come back by killing someone after 3 seconds.
Well, you come back, and the thing is you're burning, and if you instantly kill someone, you're not going to lose that much of your health. But if you're burning to death over 3 seconds, and we assume it's a flat burn, if it takes you 2 seconds to finish killing someone, you're only going to be at like 33% health. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So this already, if you're not like, oh my God, that sounds busted, it does sound busted. It sounds cool. Mm-hmm. And again, this is a mechanic that I hope can be super duper balanced, and it does sound potentially super strong, but that is a basic ability.
That gets wackier though than that.
It gets wackier. The next ability, pretty straightforward. So It is a skill shot. I'm actually not clear to me if it's a skill shot. You send out rockets, and the rockets shield allies that they pass through and damage and slow enemies that they pass through. They also apply their effects around her on cast, so an immediate AoE circle around her, and it makes an explosion at the end of the range. So pretty seems like easy skill shot to hit, shielding / healing, we're kind of getting some weird karma vibes plus a zombie ability from this character so far. The best part. This is some Dota 2 crazy shit, and I love Dota 2 design. I cannot play the game because some of the design is like so crazy and wild to me, but this is some wild stuff. You throw a, let's say, like Nami wave sized wave in front of you at a pretty decent range. Every enemy it hits goes berserk, which increases their attack speed and forces them to basic attack anything around them in this order. First, they prioritize their own allies, then neutral units, Baron, etc., Dragon, then your team, and then you. So what this means is, if you are running away from enemy Gigafed Jinx, and you throw this ult into her, and she's standing next to her tank line, she starts shooting her Malphite starts beating the hell out of her.
Yeah.
So not only are they CC'd, functionally unable to attack you because they have to attack each other, they're going to murder the hell out of each other. It's insane. It literally has so much potential, and I love abilities like this, and they can be super problematic because you're basically punishing someone for being strong. Because if the Jinx is 6 items, she's going to kill her entire team in the duration.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
or the entire team kills Jinx.
Or the entire team kills Jinx. So you're punishing her essentially for being strong, and that's why I think some of these things can be risky, but I think it's super cool because also, if you just straight ult someone 1v1, and again, this is why, again, she's being pushed in a support position. If I just ult your Jinx just gets an attack speed steroid and she beats the hell out of me. Because
no one's around.
Because no one's around.
Yeah.
So she just kills you or your allies first, So you can't use this on a single target. It has to be used in these big AoE teamfight moments, but it's also has the potential to be completely game-breaking and insanely broken.
What I'm saying is casting teamfights with this thing when like the W's on the AD carry that's burning, the ult's hitting the enemy team, which all hitting each other, the Viego's getting resets, the Gwen snipping and is immune, man. Like season 12, 13 casting, this is going to be some whack-ass stuff, but I wish that this ult also hit her allies.
Me too.
Because if it made it so that her enemies and the allies all starting hitting each other and the range was bigger, that would be such shit fest, and I would love it. Because you can put the W on your AD carry, make them start burning, and then ult everyone around. And then they like start dying and hitting each other, and then the Jinx gets like a reset from you, maybe, because you she's hitting you.
And bear with us if you're not following, it's gonna be so hard. But please go read the ability descriptions, pause for a quick second, read them, and come back. Because our dream scenario is you can also hit allies, and you, as the low health Renata, ult your own Jinx, right? You ult your own Jinx so that she can kill you to get a reset, or as your Jinx is dying, you push W on her to give her the buff so she comes back as a zombie. You then throw the ult so that she kills you while you're at low health, so that you come back as a zombie, but she's gotten a takedown off you, resetting her health, stopping her from being a zombie, giving her the attack speed steroid, which she already gets from the ultimate. She then turns, and she murders the entire... And like, you can make so many wild scenarios up in your head for how this can work.
And it rewards people being psychopath, 5-head, crazy plays, right?
Yes, that's what I want.
That would be... And imagine you're like a Nash fight, 5v5, like someone engages, and then the Renata in the backline just ults past everyone, hits all 9 people, and they're all just in this massive Armageddon for 5 seconds while Renata sits there sipping her cola with her popcorn, just watching them hit each other.
Oh my god.
Or the Renata has a Guardian Angel, okay? You have Guardian Angel and Renata, and then you're 1% HP, and you ult your Jinx, who has W on, who just died, and then she kills you. And she gets a reset, but she comes back to life full HP. But you have GA, so you're still in the fight. And the fight just keeps going, and it's some nuts-ass wacko stuff.
Yep. So anyway...
But anyway, we've probably misguided here. It doesn't hit your allies.
It doesn't hit your allies. So that was an entirely theoretical. Riot, please, let it hit your allies. That's my request. They probably tested it, and it's probably so degenerate that they just didn't. But
yeah,
I generally trust the balance team in that regard.
Do you know what I have to say about all these changes?
What?
Nasus has 10% lifesteal.
Bro, this is such a
bad
meme. This is such a bad... Why is that?
It's a classic. Like, you see all these descriptions of like hits enemy champion.
I had this
come back to
conversation
life.
with August though. It's like, bro, why are we balancing by number of words? Like, her passive has to have a lot of words, but at the end of the day, it's not that simple.
No, it's just funny how like
I hit them and then you need to hit them. And it could just say I hit them and then you need to hit them. Instead, it says the whole thing. And it's like Nasus says 10% lifesteal, but then like it's only because we all know what lifesteal is that you don't have to explain that it's like every time Nasus hits someone, he'll perceive 10% of the damage post mitigation as healing returned to his life bar.
No, the funny thing is it takes like 5-10 minutes to describe this champ, right? But if you took Nasus, you'd be like, his passive is 10% less.
Q, every time he kills a unit with it,
he
it
gets
stacks.
extra stacks. His W is a slow. His E is an AoE on the ground that does damage.
And reduces your armor.
And his ult makes him bigger and makes his Q cooldown.
And gives you increasing magic resist, does percentage health, max health damage around you.
You know,
it's Nasus ult is actually complicated, reduces his Q down by 50%.
Yeah, it's just funny how like League of Legends is kind of like
but I think
you take like season 1 where it's like, well, we have this is our limitation. And you take season 12 where you have like no boundaries and you have these crazy stuff. And I love the crazy stuff.
Philosophically, I think, personally, note if you don't know already, I am a full-time employee of Riot Games. So if you want to call conflict of interest bias, feel free to do it. But I'm saying this just as a player of League of Legends and a League of Legends enthusiast. I like complicated. I don't mind complicated kits when once you figure out the character, it feels good, it makes sense within the thematic, and it has clear, understandable counterplay. I think Aphelios is probably a failure in that regard. I do. I love that champion, but he's really confusing and doesn't make any sense. And they made some positive changes, but like if you have not played 5 games against Aphelios or more, he still does not make any freaking sense. Luckily, mostly what he does is shoot you and do damage, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but like if this champion was as complicated as Aphelios, it would be concerning. At the end of the day, like Akali, again, another champion that when she came out, I think very mechanically intensive. Aurelia, similar thing. Their kit makes sense. I think it has clear strengths, clear weaknesses. Now, not necessarily Akali when it came out, obviously, because of the Tower Shroud. But like when the kits feel good, they're mobile and they have good counterplay to play against, that feels great to me. Like I think Aurelia is a cool champion. That said, when she's fed, she's miserable to play against. Don't get me wrong. I think like
the thing that I wonder is like season 1 was the 10% lifesteal, whatever. This is our limit.
Yeah.
And now our limit is anything. You know, I can revive teammates. I'm immune in a circle. I can make enemies hit each other. Whereas, how far can we keep going? You know, like I want to know what League looks like in 5 years. Not in a bad way, but like, are we gonna start like making things that can do damage to terrain? Can we change like something on the rift?
And I wonder if the balance and design philosophy has changed. And again,
I want to see some.
August promised me he would come on the show, so I'm dragging your ass in here.
Because the technology of the game is growing. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, over the last 10 years, technology has just gotten better naturally, probably for game design as well, right? And how far can it keep growing? You know, I want to peer into the future and see
I mean, some game design is probably,
you know, imagine in 5 years' time where you can cast like a spell that makes the whole like rift turn into some kind of void and pieces keep falling in circles and you have to get out of those circles.
It's like a giant gangplank.
Raid
boss mechanic
and like
stuff.
Ground falls through, and if you fall to the ground, you die, and then like you're fighting bot lane with holes in the ground, and you have to
you have to click around it. That actually sounds kind of sick.
That sounds freaking nuts, huh?
Here's my thing: is I wonder as League's life cycle goes on, if the balance changes will also reflect the changes. Because I wonder if the League of player base, let's say Legends player base, was still, I don't know anything about how it's growing, but let's say it's growing super rapidly. I wonder if they'd be making more champions that were like friendlier to beginners and like easier to understand. Because I do think the barrier to entry of League of Legends only gets higher. It only gets more complicated. True. Even if we just make more Nasuses, it's still another champion to learn in a game that already has a ton of champions. So I wonder if as League of Legends, let's say like hits its final level of maturity, and I have no idea where it is, if that's when they just go full degen mode, and that's when we get the holes in the ground start appearing, and it's just like, we know the only people left playing League of Legends, and again, I don't think this is the case today, but are like the hardcore fans. So now we just make
turns into like
stuff.
It turns into like Bloons TD6 where you just have like spawn a helicopter in base, fly out and airstrike bot lane.
We can do the Akali Aurelia fusion dance mid game if we buy the right items, and then suddenly one of us is mouse and one of us is keyboard. Like how
you have to buy the item each, and it's like an earbud, and both of you have it, and then you walk together, you fuse into one champ, and then one of you become the keyboard, they become the mouse.
Yeah, and the thing is, because like obviously, like when you're, and again, we're not experts in this, and I don't want to speak. To
definitely.
But there's always considerations to like, you want to bring in new players, and again, if the player skill base is like really spread out, you have to design in a certain way. It's similar to say, let's say they only designed and balanced for Challenger. What would champions look like? You know what I mean? Like, how wild would that be? You could have champions that are like 30% win rate in Bronze because they're so insanely hard to play, but are like 60% in like Challenger. That sounds nutty. Yeah. So I don't know.
That was a good rant about champions, though. I enjoyed that.
I like talking about this stuff because like the ultimate truth is like the esports side of League of Legends is great, but we're also all League esports fans. If you guys want less of this or more of this, feel free to let us know. But I enjoy talking about this, and also this new champion really hypes me up because this is the guy. Because I remember, I love Bard. I love Bard ult so much. I think it's one of the coolest abilities in the game. So I love these like unique kind of effects and abilities that aren't always that have the can do literally nothing or can be so completely game changing. I like stuff that's that high variance.
Yeah, I like the things where you can just kind of like be creative, and creativity is rewarded with outplays and things like this. And I think this champ has a lot of it.
Yeah. All right. We have more top teams to talk about.
We need to talk about the LEC now.
We're going back to LEC. That was our brief Tyrant exchange. We might get Mickey's quick thoughts on Zeri as a way to close out, but regardless, we're setting up for Mikyx now. We're going to talk a little about the top teams, his perspective on the league, and then we're going to jump into the Excel story. So much to unpack there. But yeah, let's get Mickey. Well, welcome, young Mikyx, Mikyxl, as we'll now call you.
Mikyxl, I like that.
Mikyxl.
I like that.
There it is. There it is. Good to have you on the show, man. It's been a weird couple months for you, huh? You went from G2 to like floating in the nether.
In limbo.
In limbo, and then pretty clearly set to be in limbo for most of a season, and now here you are.
Someone just magically came down with a key to the jail cell and said, "Here you go, Mickey.
Here you go." The Excel powers that be have saved you. They went to McDonald's and they're like, that man makes a mean burger. I wonder if he can play League of Legends too.
Let's see how he does on support role.
It's pretty good at flipping those.
Hey, and sometimes that's what a team needs. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Before we get into like the nitty gritty of everything that happened with you and Excel and how you ended up where you are and what you're doing now, thoughts on Zeri? We just finished rambling about the new champion, even though she's like months away from seeing pro probably, but. Yep. Zeri, do we need to be scared? Is she super giga turbo broken? You don't have to give away anything. Yes? Oh, there it is.
Oh, she is? Oh, boy.
Like, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen this champion lose in solo queue. But most of the time I just banned it anyway, at least last week. This time, yeah, I mostly banned it as well, just because it's so annoying to play against. But yeah, she seems pretty strong, especially if she gets through early lane, like kind of even. I think it's mostly, I don't know, it could be played any role, like mid-top AD. I think most of the time I see it AD, but I think, yeah, it can be played anywhere, and every time it's played anywhere, it's always OP. So I don't know. I think it's going to be quite high prior, yeah.
This is every champion when it's released, just feels so broken. It's like, you know, I thought about it. I was thinking to myself, I was like, I wonder if new champions these days should have like, you need to play this many games in a normal game before you can bust it out in ranked. Because you have the people who are connoisseurs of the champ and the people who are like, I'll give it a shot to just grief it, So I was like, there must be like a warning training curve for these champs, I feel like.
It would definitely improve the quality of solo queue.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind there. But how many wins have you also gotten because someone like picked
on the enemy team
picked a random champion that they've never played before?
Plenty of times.
You take the trade, the devil's deal, as the people say. Mickey, we talked a bunch about Rogue. They're 7-0. That's cool. We want to talk a little bit about Fnatic and G2 as teams right now, climbing up in the standings. And assuming that you've watched all the games, and you can correct me if you haven't, and this is probably a question I should have asked ahead of time.
I think I did, yeah.
Hosting 101. Good. That works out. I didn't even have to say anything. That just worked. I should have just trust falled there. What's your
I had nothing else to do so.
Yeah. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you. What's your read on both these teams and kind of what are they doing well? What do they need to work on at this point as they're one step behind Rogue now at this point in the series or in the season?
I think with G2, I think they have to work on the draft. I think the drafts are so troll, but sometimes it works. I think they're quite good otherwise. Honestly, a lot of their games could go either way, but sometimes they clutch it out. Sometimes enemy team just griefs it. I think Cap's not doing too well right now, but I think he can bring it back eventually. I think the rest of the lanes is actually not bad. And then for Fnatic, I guess the 2 games they lost last week, I think their mid jungle was not the greatest, but yeah, I think they should be able to bring it back as well. Maybe not this week because they play us, but
okay, yeah, you're gonna take them the hell out. How important do you think draft is right now? Because Yanko said on PGL, he said the reason Rogue is so good is because their drafts are just so good. And now you just said G2's drafts are hit or miss. Do you think draft is like a lot more important than it was in previous seasons?
Not really. I always think draft is like 80% of the game, or like, of the win. So I think it didn't really change too much this year, but I think because there's so many new champs that are strong or that get changed, and players are just much better individually, then eventually there's not so much of a skill gap, and it's more like a draft gap because everyone is kind of good nowadays. That's what I think, at least.
I see what you mean.
But also, yeah, some champs are just good against other champs, and some champs are just complete broken, but some people don't know it, and yeah, that's how it goes.
Is there any of those champions you want to leak right here? I mean, I should, in your best interest, not leak them. Are there any completely
Drakos, don't put him on the spot like that.
Well, I'm just saying.
support.
Which support?
TF.
TF support.
TF support.
People keep banning it against us. Like, I don't get it.
Oh, okay.
They probably scout my OPGG and see I'm like 7-2 on TF, I think.
Yeah, that's I see.
Are they banning your Ophelia support as well?
Yeah, your Ophelia support's also getting banned. Your Lee Sin support, bro, they're out here. they're shutting you down one step at a time. Caitlyn support.
Yeah, my Caitlyn as well. Yeah, I don't know.
That's actually insane.
My Caitlyn.
See,
my carry plays Lux and hits the bindings.
Yeah, I was thinking those were normal bans, but I should have known with you coming back that all those were all very personal, all very targeted.
Is it weird? As soon as he said that, I have his OPGG open, looking to see if he's playing TF support. And the weird thing is, he has 8 games.
Yeah, a lot of wins over there.
He has 8 games. Wait, you can keep talking. I'm gonna check if there's support games.
Oh,
yeah, there is. Every single one of them is a support game. I don't play TF mid.
They actually are support games. Oh my god,
Yeah.
Mikyx. What is this? Glacial Augment, TF support with exhaust, building rapid fire. First item.
You told me not to leak, and here you are, just out there.
You know how it came to be? It came to be after our last playoff run where TF was open 5 games and then we picked it 5 games. Well, actually, maybe not 5. But basically, we didn't ban TF. So I had to take it on my own.
Against Fnatic in the Worlds thing, yeah.
Yes.
TF.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then Mikyx took that personally.
like-
just started playing
also-
support.
Yeah, also, everyone always says that TF has no damage and it's basically just like a CC bot. So I was like, I mean, that's kind of a support role. So I might as well play it support.
True.
So, like,
Actually,
yeah.
those are all really good points. It's like they tried to
honestly.
force him into not being a support by giving him a passive that gives him money. They're like, please, guys, don't play him support. Go farm.
But you actually get money from last hitting wards, so
The TF price procs on wards, huh?
Oh, damn.
yeah.
And I guess if you relic the cannon.
That's the extra 15 or
Yeah,
30 gold
that's
per
good,
game
yeah.
I was waiting for. That was it. I wasn't sold.
I get at least 2 extra pink wards per game from my passive. How broken?
Oh my god, you've got us sold on this now. Now I think
Right.
the TF bans genuinely
Yeah,
are for
Or
Mikyx.
Mickey. Well, if we next time
course
we
they are
cast
for
together, we'll be like, oh, they're banning the TF support. There it is.
It's like they have Caedrel TF. Oh my god,
Once
their
again.
mid AD is so strong.
mid-
It's Caedrel TF bot, stun card into trap.
We're just talking about
Yeah, it
Lux
is
in a
actually.
trap. All right, I like it. Thank you for leaking the big brain strategies.
No
Sorry,
problem, man.
Excel. Sorry, Young Buck. You
I'm
did
just doing
draft.
other people's scout work.
The funny thing is, the last thing about this is, like, I can see your runes, Mikyx. Sometimes he's going Glacial Augment, other times he's going Predator. That's when he knows if he's winning bot or if he's winning the game.
Sometimes I also went TP, and yeah, that was also pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I had futures market, so I based 300 gold and run top lane, and then TP boss to cover dive. It was completely crazy.
5
But a lot of
headshots.
times people just troll me because they think I'm trolling, so they just like already give up
that.
a champ select.
Yeah.
Happens.
Well, you've seen my bot lane champ pool. You know that most people think I'm trolling. So yeah, I understand well what it means.
Not just from the champion pool.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, look, I'm just saying that the window to push R on a Gragas body slam as Yasuo is very small, and my hands are very bad, and I wish you would stop bullying me about it. That's my only... It's not my fault. It is my fault, but, you know, hey.
I consider it.
I'm a boomer now. That said, champions, meta, all this stuff's interesting. I'm ready to see what you guys can do next week. We can talk a bit more about Excel shortly, but I would love to hear what actually happened in the off season. How did this deal come to be? What went down from your perspective with this whole getting picked up by Excel thing?
So, yeah, how it went down in off season? Yeah, I mean, I was mostly aiming to join an LEC team. I did have some offers. Nothing that was like really like stood out to me. Excel was not an option at that point. So, yeah, I guess I just had to wait. I mean, I assumed that I would just sit out Spring Split and just be a streamer. But, well, coincidentally, I guess an opportunity showed up and I just kind of grabbed it because, yeah, I do think Excel is one of the teams that had a lot of potential just looking at the roster. And also looking at their 5 games that I played, they actually looked quite strong. Like individually, everyone was playing quite well. It just kind of collapsed in like mid to late game. I think mostly around Drake fights and stuff like that. So yeah, I felt like this team could be really insane. And I think, judging from scrims that we played, I think we are pretty insane. Just have to show it now.
How many scrims did you have before you went on those stage games last weekend?
It was 4 days, I think.
4
Played
days.
like, okay, so we played 3 on Monday and then 5, 5, 5. So I guess something like that, yeah. But we also played like not too bad teams, so I was kind of satisfied with our scrims. I was a bit rusty. Like, for example, I didn't time summoners because when I was just playing solo queue, I CBA timing summoners. So like every time someone said, what summoners do I have? I'm like, well, let me get to that. And I had to pick that up. And yeah, there was a bit of rust. I'm still getting into it, kind of, the whole groove about what I need to pay attention to. But I think it's getting better, yeah.
Nice.
Nice. I mean, steady progress, it feels like. How is the team environment? Because there's been a lot of like, there's been a decent amount of drama around you coming in as the player, and it's not just Advian posting, obviously the guy who you replaced, but also like Patrick posted like, hey, it's a decision for upper manage, it is what it is, it's a little bit awkward. Like, is that carrying through into the game, into the scrims and the environment at all, or do you think that like the team is separating those two things pretty well?
I don't think it carries on to scrims or anything. I think, I mean, for me personally, it was still kind of awkward / weird, just coming into it randomly like that and not knowing what the players think, I guess. But it didn't really show through scrims or just interacting with them. Everyone was quite welcoming and friendly with me. So yeah, it was just awkward in my head, but not so much out of my head.
Yeah, just like rocking up to a party. Surprise!
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey guys.
And everyone's like, okay.
That's cool. I mean, that's good to hear, because I think it's probably a really tough thing, I imagine, when you are in a situation where teammates are probably like super. It's cool when people can balance both being super welcoming to you but also being critical of a decision that involves you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really hard thing and a very mature thing to be able to balance. And the fact that you haven't felt that effect yet outside of your own head is super good and promising, I think, for results in weeks to come, because this is absolutely something on a different team and with different players that could have just been like, well, the whole season's doomed. Like, even if you bring in, like, let's say an upgrade, then if everyone's like, well, the one thing we had on this team was a super great vibe, and you break that, it's like, oh man, a lot could fall apart very quickly. So good that the vibe is good. Are you guys like band brothers, best friends? How much history do you have with a lot of these players? Because you've like
Zero.
Yeah, zero. I was gonna say, because like the nice thing for you when you went into G2 is that you had like Wonder there, and you guys had obviously spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
And you built a lot of those. I know you built a lot of those relationships up pretty quickly on the G2 side. But like, yeah, you've never played with any of these guys. How is like building all these new relationships? But you've obviously played against them for many years.
Yeah. I mean, in G2 I only didn't know Jankos really. I already knew everyone else. So yeah, joining Excel, I didn't really talk to anyone else beforehand. I think the only person I knew was Nelson. So yeah, it was a little bit awkward, I guess. But yeah, it was not too bad. I mean, I think we get along quite well with everyone, so it's not bad.
That's good. As long as you've got people to play Mortal Kombat and Magic the Gathering with, I'm happy. Oh, like League of Legends.
Not yet.
Sorry. As long as
League
you've
of
got people to
Legends,
play
yeah,
League of
yeah.
Legends with, I'm happy. That's the one.
Not yet, but we did watch some anime, so that's like
Okay.
already a big step forward.
Yes.
Pushing them in the right direction.
Hell yeah, baby. Demon
Yeah.
Slayer. That's that good stuff to see.
I think Finn watches. Does Finn watch anime?
Yeah, Finn and Marcoon. We were
Okay.
watching Attack on Titan, the last episode that came out.
Oh, there it is. There it is. The top side. That's where you guys have to. I'm ready for it. The top
like
side's going to be strong this week. The
Mikyx
Synergy's
starts
gonna
going
be
top
there.
side this weekend,
I'm
and
gonna
we're on
see
the
it.
cast, and we're like,
Finn's going to be playing Camille with the 3D maneuver gear. Like,
yeah. I'm gonna say on the analyst test, like, Mickey went top here because they were watching Attack on
yeah,
Titan.
like if you guys watch the most recent episode of Attack on Titan, what you'll understand is that it's a lot about these themes, and those themes correlate very well with exactly what's happening right now. The anime analysis of League of Legends. Oh man,
Pretty much.
sick. I mean, good that you're building up the team. Glad that there's some stuff that's going well for you guys.
Yeah.
So looking at the team, I mean, when you said decisiveness, you kind of called out some of the dragon setups as issues. How's the progress and how's the work going in terms of scrims? Is that something that you're like very vocal and active and helping them focus on, or are you more focused on your individual performance, like you talked about with summoner spells, timings, etc.?
No, I'm kind of more focusing on myself right now. I feel like I'm kind of boosted compared to where I was. But like, yeah, I'm just mostly trying to adapt, and I was kind of surprised at how much actually the rest of the team talks as well. So I don't have to do it, so that's nice. Like I think Markoon and Nukeduck talk quite a lot, like throughout the whole game, and Markoon makes a lot of plans and is very like confident in them. So it's easy to just follow it. But yeah, depending on how it works out or not, then we can talk about it after. Maybe at some point I will have to, step in myself. But I think right now it's actually not bad. Maybe like on stage we play a lot more scared than in scrims.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the difference comes in.
When you
yeah.
When you look back at your role in G2, whatever year, whenever you feel like you were at your best in G2, were you the guy super vocally calling, making plans, leading? Is that the role you prefer to be in?
No, not really. I was never really that vocal because in every single team of mine, I had vocal team members, so I didn't feel the need to. And also, I just didn't have to for the last, I don't know how many years I've played. So it's just easier for me to focus on my own role. And yeah, I mean, I think everyone on the team should talk. So I think it's good if everyone talks, obviously, but have like maybe 2 or 3 voices that are like making plans. But I think that's usually on the carries because they have to kind of talk about how strong they are, if they actually want to fight or not. And then the rest can make decisions based on that, I guess.
So it sounds like you're trying to kind of push them to be more vocal in what they need to do rather than becoming more vocal yourself, because the best version of Mikyx is when he's focused on himself.
Well, I'm not really pushing it, but that's kind of happening, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Because you have the experience and stuff. You're like, this is how we should do it. This is, guiding them, I think, is the best thing for these players.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because I think that anytime you pick up a new player, people always have this expectation that this player is going to come in and make, they're like
change the world.
Great, crazy, wild aspirations. And I think kind of the read a lot of people got from your pickup was that it was going to be like you're this crazy vocal guy because you're the big, because when people think of you and players like similar to you, like like Hylissang and these big historic EU playmaking supports, I think most of us assume that you're saying something before you go in for your 5-man recon engage or your weird bike thing. We like assume you're like leading in that instance, which is maybe a bias on our side. So it's interesting to hear that it's a lot more about you focused. So then if you're focusing on yourself, what is the team focusing on? Obviously they've pulled in Nelson now, and like you said, you've worked with him before. Like what is the team focused on primarily? Is it still just those objective setups? Is there anything really that you guys are trying to nail down that you can share? That is.
Oh, the laugh.
Yeah, after last week, Baron.
Yeah. I think Baron is
smite.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Let's say that. That was
Just how to set it up. I guess just Drakes and Barons are kind of the highest priority right now. Yeah, everything else is just whatever.
So,
but those two, yeah.
If you're not super vocal, and like you said, you still talk. You're just maybe not as vocal as maybe Markoon or Nukeduck. How is it that the week that you show up, Excel like runs at every Baron at 20 minutes in every game they play, ad nauseum?
Well,
like what happened this? Because I think most people assume it's a Mikyx thing, but what actually happened this week that you guys just ran at every Baron?
So, I mean, as I said, I was flipping a lot in the offseason. Different things. This time it was a Baron. But, I mean, the Mad Lions game. So, first, we got Victor TP on his inhibitor. So, we're like, okay, maybe we can rush it because it's 45. And then the fight happened. And then Akali died. And Akali had no TP. So, we're just like, okay, we're up faster. So, we can do this 45. Maybe we just rush it again. And we can maybe keep Lee Sin out with the Viger cage. Didn't happen. So, we got a Solan. And then... the other game, I think Astralis game, that Baron start was actually not bad. The only problem, because like Xin Zhao showed bot lane to gank our Jace at like 25 minutes. And we were like all topside. So we just like, okay, let's just do Nash. The jungle is bot lane. The only problem is we're not DPSing Nash as hard as we could. And we didn't really keep out Xin Zhao. So, but that one was like really free. It was just a bad flip.
Yeah, timings are off.
I mean, no, it was a good flip, but bad execution.
Timings are off, and then like need to do full damage, full commit, and you would have got it. Or if you zoned him away, you would have got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rough. I was hoping the answer was you were just screaming in comms, "Go flip!" Because like that's what the public narrative is when you're the guy who comes in and your team immediately proceeds to flip it.
It's unreal how many like Baron flips there are, not even just like across the world. Like even T1 Dam1, it's just they're both doing like one team's doing Baron and the other jungler's in the pit, and even though one team's ahead like 3k gold, this Baron will decide the game sometimes, and then like they get it anyway, and it's like, oh well, we were gonna win anyway. But it's like, yeah, I can see it, but like, what if you didn't get it? You know, like feels like the game is so much about objectives. Who can set up around the objective best? Sure, but then a lot of times it comes down to a 50-50.
Yeah, I've heard this, and I would love to get your take on this, Mickey. That the game right now, like short of you running away with like a 5-6k gold lead, it feels like a lot that it's all scaling. And we've seen so many games where it's like one team can be up 3 Drakes, but if the gold is close, it doesn't really matter. This actually happened to Excel before you joined. They were very close against Misfits. And everything was fine. They were taking every objective on the map, all things considered. I think they were playing much cleaner, but Misfits just waited and scaled and stalled and didn't give it too much, and then just won that one flight at a Drake, and the game was over.
Got the soul away from them, got Nash, and then
What's your read on the current meta? Like, what do you think is most important? Is it all just about scaling, or what's the best way to play right now?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is about scaling and just dragon fights. I think most games are just decided around objectives. I mean, yeah, most carries are like hyper carries. Like in LEC, there's a lot of Jinxes. She's like, quite OP late game. Mid laners are also like Victor, pretty good late. What else is there?
Corki.
Yeah, that's balanced as well. So
just says it in such a mono. And then that's balanced too.
And then I guess junglers, just like any jungler, just have to put a smite on him, and he's gonna be OP. And then but I think it's mostly just Drake fights decide the game. Like usually people just farm, and then fight Drake, and then farm, next Drake, fight again, and then whatever team wins those probably wins the game.
Yeah, again, T1 down 1 series, such an interesting dynamic, because Barons were one flip, but the Dragons were another flip. Like both teams, I think one game had 3 dragons apiece, and it was an Infernal Dragon, and everyone was on top of it. And it's like, well, if you're poking me and winning the fight, what's my option on the soul point? Well, I have to start it and flip it. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm probably going to start and flip it anyway before the fight. So it's like, you have like 2 things going on. You have the fight that's about to happen, and everyone's like, who's getting the Drake? Who's getting the Drake? And you get it, it's like, Elder Dragon is the same. It's flipped so much. It's crazy.
Right. In the end, Riot Games wins. You want a 1-3-1. You want to play your clever strategies. You want to funnel. You want to do whatever. No. You will fight for the objective. It didn't work with Scuttle Crab the way they wanted it to at first, because they just traded on both sides. But finally, they have a meta where they're forcing everyone to fight.
And the smites are so much more even now, because before when you'd force, you'd be like 2 levels up on jungle. It's like, yeah, my smite does like 200 more damage, sure. But now it's like every smite's the same damage no matter how far ahead you are, So it's all a case of like, burst at 1.5k, let's try and get it.
I actually forgot about that change, but you're right that is so significant. It's just literally always a 50-50.
Yeah.
Wow. League of Legends. Exciting game. All right, Mickey, let's talk about Excel looking forward. You're joining. You're slowly becoming unbad. Unbad. I'm going to call you bad. You're not bad, but, you're getting back into form.
I'm unbad. Okay,
unbad just sounds, harsher.
That sounds good, actually.
Yeah,
I like it.
You're getting unbad. You got to work ahead. You guys have a really tough week this week.
What's their schedule?
They place Rogue and Fnatic.
Oh, wow.
So,
Easy.
Yeah, easy.
Someone has to bring Rogue down.
Someone does have to. Is it going to be you, Mickey? Are you scared of Trimby? I mean, I feel like last year, definitely year before, you wouldn't have been sweating at all when it came to Trimby. But now he's evolved. He's
trying to create a rivalry here, aren't you?
Yeah, he's like super Trimby. I'm not really. Like, he can say whatever he wants. I just think Trimby's good, and Mickey's got to face him. So if he wants to trash talk, go ahead. But what's your?
I mean, he's playing quite well. Yeah, at the moment. I was kind of impressed. We kind of overperformed IMO. I do still think it's going to be more close against the Fnatic bot lane. I think they're much better. But, we'll see. I think Rogue is just maybe better as a team. But and drafts. So as long as we come in with a good draft, I think it should be smooth sailing.
Oh, Mickey knows if the game's won or not in the first 2 minutes of the start of the broadcast. Draft's over and he's loading into the game. In the back of his mind, he's like, it's won, or it's like,
we're gonna invent a signal after this that you can do right into your player cam this weekend, so we'll know if you think the draft is won or lost.
Signal is like, this is good. This is like we're gonna win.
No, you can't show the public because then they're gonna know me. Because then Mickey's gonna flame his coach. But we're gonna make up something subtle, some subtle signal. Make a slight bird sound in your microphone if it's a winning draft, and then we'll know.
And the funny
I don't want you to throw Youngbuck under the bus at first opportunity if the draft is bad.
Maybe in base, I either spam laugh if I think we won, or I spam joke if we think
Okay.
Okay.
We'll
All
keep
right,
an eye out for it.
Eye on it. Eye on it.
Joke. Okay, got it.
Joke or laugh. Got it.
The funny thing is like it's one of those moments where like the draft's like lost. You're just like, yeah, we can win, guys.
You can use an emote. You can use we can give you. You can use 2 different emotes. One could be good draft. One draft can be
just like happy be or sad be.
Happy be or sad.
No, it's too obvious.
All right,
just try that. Yeah.
Just suggestions since drafting is 80%. But with that being in mind, with drafting being 80%, Excel. Here's the immortal question that everyone will ask you from now until it happens, because it's the only thing that matters to Excel. Are you making playoffs?
Yeah, easy. I don't think it's like that big of a goal. I think it's common sense. Even though, yeah, they didn't make playoffs yet, but like other teams in LEC are like really not good. So there's just no way we don't make playoffs. By the way.
Who loosely? We're gonna talk next week about who Caedrel and I think is making playoffs. If you had to give, and I can list the teams and their scores if you need me to give you an update.
No.
Which 6 teams do you think are making playoffs at this point?
Rogue, Fnatic, G2, Vitality, Excel, and Misfits. Actually, is Misfits.
Nomad?
Yeah, I guess.
Nomad Lions?
Oh, Mad instead of Misfits. Yeah, my bad.
Okay, so so you think it's probably a battle between you and Misfits then?
I guess, yeah.
Interesting.
Wait, you guess? Yeah. Are you coming in at 6, Mick? Or are you coming in like 4th? How much confidence are we talking here? Because like the only thing Excel wants is to make playoffs.
Wait, you said 4th?
Well, okay, or 5th, you know?
I would say 3rd. Yeah, I'll say 3rd.
3rd? Damn it, I like it.
I like it. That's the level of confidence we need. Yeah, hoping that it's going to be good. For the record, Mickey, you may not have watched the first episode, but me and Caedrel have actually put a bet down on this. Caedrel's bet that Excel are going to make playoffs, and I bet that Excel aren't going to make playoffs.
This was before you joined, so I'm happy.
This was before you joined. For those who don't know, I would count Mickey amongst my friends and probably would have felt very differently about my bet if I would have known that I was literally just being like, hey bro, need you to suck this season. But I made the bet, so here it is. So if Excel don't make playoffs, Caedrel has to sing a song and wear an Excel costume about him being sorry for ever believing in Excel. And if Excel do make playoffs, I have to make a song apologizing to Excel wearing the same Excel costume.
I don't know I don't know. Did we decide where we're doing this? Is it like
I don't even know if we have a budget secured yet for it, so I'm not making promises. I know that we will make the costume out of cardboard if we have to, and I know that I will make the song, and that one of us is going to sing it. So that's all I know.
Jeez, I love it.
Don't worry, Cathedral. We got you.
This is what I like to hear. You know, this is the confidence I like to hear. Mickey's there. He's got my back. Oh my God, Drake. I'll start writing the lyrics.
It's all.
What's the first verse? Oh, Mickey.
No.
You came into the team, ripped my dreams away.
Bro, why are you
it's a Blink-182 song, you know?
No, you do this every time. I'm just like, bro, we're gonna get DMCA'd. You can't just sing "I Miss You" by Blink-182. Actually, that's kind of a great idea. If we can somehow make that work in parody law, that's a great idea because that song bangs. Anyway, Mickey,
I cannot sleep. No, I won't finish the last lyric.
End of the first round robin. You're playing Fnatic, Rogue this season. Before we let you go, confident 2-0 weekend, 1-1. I know that like technically that the most likely thing that anyone will say when I answer this is, yeah, of course, bro, 2-0, no problem.
Yeah, easy, man.
But if there's anything else, any final words before your week? Is it a 1-1? Is it an 0-2? Is it a 2-0? You confident?
You're gonna clap.
If I was at 2, I think everyone would call me delusional. So I'll say 1-1. But I think we can go to 2-0, honestly.
1-1, but you think we can go 2-0? It's fine, bro. People are going to call you delusional for saying 3rd anyway, so it's all good.
That's true, that's true.
Yeah. One step at a time,
okay,
bro.
guys, we're going to be 7th again.
Oh, you got me.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, but Mickey, I said this Drakos at the top of the podcast, dude. You had 2 games to Excel so far. You finished 0-7-7 and 0-0-7. Did you ever think about that?
At 0-0-7 on Lulu?
Yeah, and you only ever had a 0 or a 7 in your score lines in the last 2 games you played.
Interesting.
That's kind of sussy. If you ask me.
Okay.
I did my tasks, so it's not me.
You did your tasks?
Okay, good. Okay, all right. All I'll say, Caedrel, is the only thing you've encouraged this man to do is to dive into the fountain if the game is won to turn to 7 into an 8.
Yeah. I actually have to keep it at 7 now. I'll do a Hilly song where I just go into the fountain as soon as the game's over, if it makes it 7.
Why not? Yeah, screw it.
Why not?
Respect the players who have like 1 death and then they've won the game and they have like a 5-1-20 scoreline, you know, it's like 25 KDA, and then just jump in the foul and say, screw your stats. And then they half their KDA for fun.
That's the only one that's really tight is like selling all your items to build tiers, because it just screws up every stats database.
You used to be able to buy 6 tiers, now you can only buy 1.
That's true.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can only have 1 tier item now.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Tragic.
I missed the 6 tiers.
Game's ruined.
Yeah.
Sorry. I guess that's it. That's it. Game's done.
That's it. Cut. Kill. Yeah, we're
let's
out.
get
Done.
it. We're done. Thanks for coming on, Mickey. Good luck this week. Good luck in
Thank
the weeks
you.
to come.
Yeah.
I hope for your sake and Excel's sake that this is the season of playoffs.
Do you?
No, I don't. I hope.
I can read you.
God, it's weird. I'm really conflicted now on a deep personal, emotional level, but I'll save that for whenever episode you either do or don't make playoffs on, which will be like week 8. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Good luck, my
I mean,
friend.
it's a win-win for you.
It's a win-win.
So it's fine.
Either Caedrel has to do a song and we get to play Magic the Gathering, or I have to do a song and you get to go to playoffs. So I don't lose. I lose and I win either way. That's the moral of the story.
I don't lose. I only win.
Sure. Yes.
I only win
Is that
one
that
way.
lose
I mean,
skew that
even
I've
if
seen
you have to make a
recently?
song, like, it's fine.
Do you
It's
want?
gonna
Will
be a
you
good
play
song anyway.
piano in the
That's a win
song,
for you as
Mickey?
well.
Maybe
Mickey, will you
do the
play piano
piano?
in
yeah.
the song? Yes.
Sure, but I need like at least 2 months to learn.
It will be
It's
really
going really
simple.
slow.
It'll be really simple.
Okay, sure.
Because I can't
Then
play
I can
piano,
do
so
it.
I'm not going to write you a complicated part. Dude, no.
All right.
Don't flame
Sounds
Silver
good.
Scrapes. It's a masterpiece. How dare you? All right, this is the worst rambling outro of all time. Thank you again, Mickey, for coming on. This has been Euphoria
Thank you.
season 9?
Something.
Whatever.
Episodes.
It's 2022 spring. This is episode 4.
You Googled 2020 like an hour ago.
Season 9.
Make it
episode
7.
4. Not 7. We should have brought you on for episode 7. You're so much better at this
Maybe
than we
episode
are.
7 is the comeback of when
If you lock playoffs for episode
Okay.
7, it will be the perfect episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, we'll bring you and whoever else on your team back. We'll bring the whole squad in. All right. Thanks,
Let's
Mickey.
go.
Thank you, audience. We'll see you guys this weekend for more banging League of Legends action. End of the first round robin this week. See ya.
See ya.